Never Stop Learning, week 199. We're going to take a quick look at how to use outline text as a brush in Adobe Illustrator CC 2014. Alright, so even though I'm using the latest version of Adobe Illustrator, that doesn't mean you can't follow along with the older version. So a couple weeks back, we took a look at how to create outline text. Then after that, we took a look at how to package our artwork so we could bring along that font file. Now I'm going to show you another use for outline text. Alright, so I'm going to hit the T key to activate the type tool. I'm going to click once in the center of my document, and with the caps lock on, I'm going to type in Adobe Grind. Alright, get rid of that caps lock. Command Enter to accept that. When I hit Command Enter, it brings me back to the selection tool automatically. So I'm going to resize this guy while holding down the Shift key. And I just want to make my text nice and big. Alright. If you want to use some different text, that's fine, no big deal. I'm just typing in Adobe Grind for now. Over on the bottom right, see where it says character? I got my character panel up. Now if your character panel is not up, you want to hit Command T or Control T on your keyboard, and that'll bring up your character panel. Now in here, I'm going to change over to a different font. I'm going to use FireEye, but if you don't have FireEye on your machine, don't worry about it. You could use whatever font you want. Now what I'm looking for in a font for this demo is I'm looking for something that is nice and short and wide. So as long as you have a short, wide font, you're going to be just fine. Alright, I'm seeing this little gap here. I don't really like that, so I'm going to delete that, fill it in. Command Enter to accept that. That looks great. Okay, now that I got my artwork set up, what I normally would do is zoom out so I can see my pasteboard. With the selection tool, I'm going to hold down the Option key. Now you see I got this double cursor here, so I'm going to click and drag, release the mouse first, then release Option. Now I got this copy of my live text over there. Command 0 to zoom in all the way. Now I'm going to select this guy, hit Command Shift O, and that's going to create outlines for me. So Adobe Illustrator is no longer looking at this as live text. So if I were to want to edit this and maybe change this to grinders, I'd have a tough time doing it because it's not live text anymore. It's just anchor points and paths. All right, so now that we have it set up like this, I could actually create a brush out of it. So I'm going to just click and drag and drop it off over here in the brushes panel. You see where I have this little plus symbol? Once I see that, I know it's going to accept it as a brush. I'm going to release my mouse. Then I get this little window here that says New Brush. All right. Going back to this brush panel, if you don't have your brushes panel up, just come over here to the window menu, scroll through till you find brushes, and click on it, and it'll bring it right up for you. All right, back to New Brush. All right, don't just click OK. You want to slow down and take a read here real quick. It says select a new brush type. Over here it says scatter brush by default, and you don't want scatter brush. So if you click OK, you're already messing up. You want to click on this guy right here that says art brush. Pattern brushes are great too, but that's not the one you want today. We're going to be using art brush for now. All right, click OK to accept that. Now we have art brush options. The first thing we see is the name. I'm going to change the name to Adobe Grind. That's going to help me find it a lot easier later. All right, I'm not going to go through all the options, but right here it says brush scale options. By default, it's set to stretch to fit stroke length. Now, I don't want my text being stretched unless I do it. So I'm going to switch over to this guy that says scale proportionately. That way, all my text is proportional and I'll be able to read it just fine. All right, next, let's take a look right here where it says direction. All right, currently, the arrow is going from left to right, which is great because that's how I'm going to read this text. Adobe Grind is spelled out from left to right. Now, if the text was being spelled out from right to left, I would click on this button here, and that's going to switch the behavior. Take a look right here in the preview window. Now this arrow is going from right to left. All right, I'm going to bring it back to how it was by default because that's what I need, and you're going to see this direction section come back into play later on. I'm going to skip colorization, I'm going to skip options, and come right back down here to the bottom where it says OK. Clicking on that already creates a new brush for me over here in the brushes panel. All right, hovering over it gives me a little bit of helper text, and it shows me Adobe Grind, but I can plainly see it's my Adobe Grind brush. All right, so I'm going to move this artwork out of the way. Back in the Tools panel, I have this tool here, the Line Segment tool, or I could hit the / key on my keyboard. I'm going to click on it once to activate it. Click and drag while holding down the Shift key is going to create a straight segment going from left to right. All right, over here in the Tools panel, it's showing me that I have the fill activated, so I'm going to hit the X key to activate the stroke. And in the Brushes panel, I'm just going to click on my Adobe Grind brush. All right, so pretty cool. It looks just like the one above, just a little bit smaller, but it isn't the same. It's actually a stroke. So even though our eyes are reading this as text, Adobe Illustrator is reading this as a stroke. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to hit the P key to activate the pen tool. Now remember, I'm working in the Creative Cloud, so if I hover over this segment and hold down the Option key, my cursor changes and I'm able to bend this segment. All right. I'm going to release, and now I have some arc text. All right. Again, I'm going to click and drag down, make a change that way. So that looks pretty cool. Let me drag this guy back up. Again, Adobe Illustrator is reading this as a stroke. So if I were to hit Shift W to activate my width tool, I can stretch this guy out right here in the middle and then release. So even though our eyes are seeing text that's being blown up in the middle, Adobe Illustrator is seeing a stroke that gets thick in the center but is tapered at the edges. All right, so back to the pen tool. See these little Bezier handles? Well, I could actually click and drag. Oops. Grab it right. Drag it down this way and make whatever changes I want. Now it's just following along this path and it's going through as a new brush stroke right over here. So let me get rid of this guy and I'll show you a problem that I ran into. Now, one way that I wanted to make some arc text was I hit the L key to activate the ellipse tool. Now take a look at what I'm doing. I'm starting from the bottom left, clicking and dragging towards the upper right. Okay, when I release, well, let me hit the D key to give it the default appearance. Get rid of that fill and let's reapply that brush. All right, great. There, it all has the same stroke weight on here. Now what's going on here is it's reading Adobe Grind and it's starting over here at the 3 o'clock side and it's going counterclockwise all the way back to 3 o'clock. All right, so I'm gonna hit the C key to activate my scissors tool. And right here where I have this little anchor point, I'm gonna click on that once. All right, I'm gonna come over here towards the left at the 9 o'clock position. Click on that. Now what I've done is I've split that ellipse up into 2 arcs. All right, the one on the bottom looks great. I could actually read this. It says Adobe Grind just fine, but the shape of it isn't what I want. So let me get rid of this guy. This is the shape that I want, but Adobe Grind is upside down. So that's one of the problems that I ran into. Sometimes it's in the wrong direction because that's the direction the path was going. All right, so I'm gonna show you how to change that. Select this guy over here, and over here in the brushes panel. In my workflow, I like to make a copy of it. All right, so now I have 2 brushes, but let me double click on the one that I'm using. Over here where it says direction, I'm going to switch over to right to left. I'm going to click OK. Now I get this little window here and it's asking me, do I want to leave the strokes alone? I actually want to apply to the strokes. If I click on apply to the strokes, it's going to change the one I have selected right here. All right, now it's reading accurately here. So if you take a look over here in the brushes panel, I actually have 2 copies of that same brush. One of them's upside down and the other one's right side up. That way I could call upon whichever one as needed in my design work. All right, so let me get rid of this guy. The next thing I wanted to show you was I'm going to hit the D key to activate the default appearance, get rid of that fill, and then activate Adobe Grind brush again. All right, so now that I have the Adobe Grind brush, I'm going to hit the N key on my keyboard to activate the pencil tool. Now I'm going to click and drag to draw out a path and then release. All right, so just again, bringing this point home that this is just a brush now. Whatever path you lay out, that text is going to follow right along with it. And there you have it, folks. That's a quick look at outline text as a brush in Adobe Illustrator CC 2014.